the last video I came to the conclusion that everything is Haki, and I said I would explain devil fruit powers. Well, if everything is Haki, then that means devil fruits are Haki. Case closed. What more is there to be said? Okay, it's not that simple. To understand, let's first real quick go over what Chi is again. Chi is vibrating in constant energetic motion within all things. With that in mind, let's look at a quote from world-renowned engineer and inventor Nikola Tesla. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibrations. The thing about Haki is that it is both the energy source and the techniques. A ninja uses chakra to perform ninjutsu, but in One Piece, Haki is used to perform Haki. So it can be a bit confusing, but it's still explainable, so just keep that in mind. You can take a source of energy, aka Chi, and vibrate it at different levels of constant speed, which will produce a range of different effects. For example, I took a test in which I took the liquid form of dihydrogen oxide and caused its frequencies to raise, which resulted in it taking the form of gas. I've heard from my colleagues that the chemical compound will turn to solid if it vibrates slow enough. I've just checked my freezer and I can confirm that water does indeed turn to ice. Unfortunately, I've consumed the hydric acid and fear I will perish one day. Okay, enough stating the obvious. The point I'm trying to make in using water as an example is that there are 3 forms, which is the same for Haki. And just like my water example, I believe the 3 types of Haki abilities are the results of Haki, the energy source, being used at different levels of frequency. These frequencies will alter the user's mind, body, or soul. These alterations are known as observation Haki, armament Haki, and conqueror Haki. Chi has known levels of frequency. However, I'm more inclined to think of it in terms of Prana because I'm more familiar with that. I feel justified in doing so for 2 reasons. First, Prana means breath, just like spirit and Chi. It's the same thing under a different name, which leads me to my next point. Secondly, Haki goes under another name, which is known as mantra, a term that comes from the Hindu religion, which uses prana. In that system, the levels of frequencies would be known as chakra. I don't mean your chakra, Naruto. The real life chakra. Really, you ninjas should just be calling it prana, but whatever suits you. Now please, leave. Thank you. Disclaimer, to say that all we are is prana and chakra is grossly oversimplifying it, but I just need to explain enough to get my point across in this video. Energy is everywhere, and in everything, there is energy. We have centers in our body that are conductors for this energy. These energy centers are called chakras. Through these chakras, we take in and send out energetic vibrations on many different levels, such as body, mind, heart, and soul. Each chakra has a different color associating with it, and each color has a different vibration. Now what we're going to do is figure out which type of Haki is associated with which frequency. The first 3, which are root, sacral, and solar plexus, are associated with the physical. That should give you a hint of which type of Haki this would be. The root chakra is associated with the element of earth, so of course the Haki that involves hardening is the one you should look towards. Also, root chakra is located primarily at the base of the spine. It represents stability, the ability to hold your ground. The first chakra is about survival, because you must make sure you're secure and defended before proceeding elsewhere. As the lowest chakra, it is the one that commands the body the most. By mastering this chakra, one can freely control their body movement and even shape. This is the reason I believe Luffy doesn't enter Gear 4th without armament Haki. At the price of inflating his muscle, he loses control of his body and bounces around. However, being able to recoil his legs grants him flight, and being able to recoil his arms adds to his speed, striking power, and he can even control his arm after it has been extended. The last thing I want to mention is the ability to make weapons harder with armament Haki. I bring this up because we are told that Ryuma's blade Shisui is permanently black due to armament. Wouldn't that mean it can be used to hurt Logia users 24/7? It would seem so, and a possible plot hole or retcon if that were to be the case. However, notice in my description of root in relation to armament, I never talked about how it would affect devil fruit users. Let's talk about Zoro and Tashigi versus Monet. Zoro with his black blade did not damage Monet, yet Tashigi, without coating her sword, did hurt Monet. The conclusion is that the ability to harden and the ability to bypass Devil Fruit powers are two separate applications of Armament Haki. I'm sure the answer lies within one of the next two chakras, so let's move on. The second and third chakras are also associated with the physical realm, so it's safe to assume that they will also have to do with Armament Haki. However, you'll notice as the frequencies rise, the chakras will get more spiritual. After root, the next level is sacral chakra. This one is water and is centered in the reproductive organs. It's an energy meant for connecting bodies together, if you catch my drift. In a way, you can say this is the same for Armament Haki. In battle, you can use Armament Haki to connect to your opponent, bypassing even the defenses of an intangible Logia user. Water is a Devil Fruit user's weakness after all. Not only that, but water is known for its fluidity. The advanced form of Armament Haki, when it's used offensively, has the opposite focus than that of the first level. Whereas the rooted version focuses on defending the exterior, the sacral version focuses on attacking the interior. Imagine priding yourself on having a really powerful Armament Haki just to find out that there's a next level that is meant to get past the first level's defense. I digress. Actually, while I'm off topic, I'd like to point out that the second level of Haki would be associated with water, and Fishman Karate is also a fighting style, both associated with water, and focuses on attacking the interior of a being. Perhaps there's more to this. Anyway, back on topic. Another name for Haki is Ryo. In English, it means flowing sacra. Because Wano focuses so heavily on Armament Haki, they're going to name the power something that is centered around it. Ryo, aka Haki, doesn't just allow you to connect to other people, but objects as well, notably swords. In order for one to become a master samurai and one with their blade, it is imperative that they learn to flow and release Haki. Similar to how water flows and releases out of one's sacral region, a warrior must learn to do the same with Armament Haki, to consider oneself on its second level. And yes, I did just compare Armament Haki to taking a piss. Anyway, moving on, or should I say moving up. Solar Plexus, associated with fire, and it is the center for your willpower. Only the strongest of warriors with the most guts can master this level of Armament Haki. First off, willpower is what Haki is the manifestation of. Let's once again go back to what Haki is translated as. Spirit. As I said earlier, it's tricky to explain Haki because it defines both a phenomenon and a source. The same applies to the word spirit. While spirit can be looked at as like prana or chi, with it being described as the breath of life, it can also be said to be willpower. When someone is feeling determined, you might say, "That's the spirit," or you know the terms like team spirit. The biggest difference in the two definitions is the human element. When referring to just the life force, it could be a human spirit, it could be a snake spirit, it could be a rock spirit. At the end of the day, it is whatever breathes, and apparently everything breathes. As I said in the last episode, what makes the voice more supreme than a breath is that it requires a higher level of consciousness. With Armament Haki, it's great to know how to make your skin hard or how to flow and release the energy. But what really matters the most is how much willpower a warrior has. That's where the true strength of Haki comes from. One can't build up conviction just by simply lifting weights. It's about experiences from the past, who you need to be in the present, and prospects of the future that strengthen your ambition. Now, where does fire play in all this? Well, you've seen Luffy and Big Mom show off fire patterns in their armament. Luffy does this when he enters Gear 4th, which is his current highest form of Armament Haki. And Big Mom is a Yonko, so it'd be no surprise if she had the third form of Armament Haki. Perhaps we have seen the highest form of Armament Haki this whole time and haven't realized it. Perhaps some characters in the story have been using it this whole time and they didn't even realize they were using the third form of Armament Haki. Let's talk about Diable Jamba and Red Hawk. When we were introduced to these type of attacks through Sanji, he claimed that he was capable of igniting his leg due to speed and friction. It makes sense, besides the fact that his pants, shoe, and leg should be burning off, but I'll let that slide just for the sake of maintaining his appearance. However, the laws of physics can't be claimed after the time skip, in which he doesn't even spin anymore. He simply spontaneously erupts. Memories are apparently the cause. If that doesn't scream supernatural, I don't know what does. Please recall what I said earlier. It's about experiences from the past that strengthened your ambition. Memories and one's spirits are linked. Just look at how Pudding's memory power affected Big Mom's powers over Soul's. So yeah, I'm implying he may have been using the highest level of armament Haki unbeknownst to him. It wouldn't be the first time a character has used Haki before they knew what it was. Luffy done so plenty of times from the Sabaody to the Paramount War arc, and Zoro done so against Daz Bones. In fact, don't you recall how he somehow set Ryuma's zombie on fire? Let's turn our focus to the main character. Unlike Sanji's attack, we haven't the slightest explanation for why Red Hawk catches on fire. Some people say it's like Sanji's initial Diablo Jambla. It's due to Luffy generating enough speed and friction. I'm not buying it, and here's my 3 reasons. How can it be speed when Luffy's fist catches on fire before the attack picks up a lot of speed? He stretches his fist out, it catches on fire, and then he puts his all into his punch, as opposed to his fist catching fire as he punches at top velocity. Now I understand one might argue that it's a manga, and because it's still image, it just wasn't portrayed well enough. I might give you leeway if it wasn't for my next point. The first time we see him use it is underwater. I'm not going to pretend to be a physicist, it's been many years since I've taken physics class, but I at least know friction occurs between 2 objects. When Sanji first used DJ, it was because his foot and the floor were rubbing against each other. Makes sense. Even water and air causes friction. However, in order for Luffy to cause the water to ignite, water would have to be combustible. Not only that, anybody that drives a car would know that rubber and water don't go well together. None of it adds up to me. If you have a reason to show that it makes sense from a physics standpoint, then I'd love to hear it. And please do your research and show your sources. My final point to suggest that it isn't speed is because that it's inconsistent. He has other attacks that are faster yet don't catch on fire, like Jet Gatlin he used against Lucci. Some say it's because he needs Haki to harden himself in order to generate enough friction. Again, I'm not a physicist, so I'm not sure if that's how it works scientifically. From what I remember, it's due to the roughness and smoothness of an object. If you take Luffy's smooth rubber arm and make it harder, that still doesn't change the fact that it's smooth. Regardless, I can still call BS, because first of all, we've seen him use Jet Gatlin and Armament at the same time. Even worse, Gear Force Snake Man is his fastest form, yet none of his attacks catch on fire. And by the logic that fire is due to speed, all of Snake Man attacks should be on fire. I rest my case. My speculation is that it's the result of 3rd level of Armament Haki. Now you might be wondering, if Luffy didn't even know how to use the 2nd form of Armament Haki, how would he have known to have used the 3rd level back then? To that I say, Luffy is not only using the 3rd level of Armament Haki with Red Hawk, but the 2nd as well. Basically, he is using all 3 in one attack. And of course, I'll explain myself. So, he coats his arm in Haki, which is the root chakra, aka Earth. Next, he sets his arm ablaze with the solar plexus, aka Fire. It's when the attack hits that you can really see the sacral chakra, aka Water, take effect. When Luffy freed Hyogoro from his collar, the old man tells Luffy that he already knows the 2nd level, which is what I'm saying. But more importantly, he mentions another thing that I said earlier. The 2nd level of Haki attacks the inside and then out. Now when Luffy lands Red Hawk on somebody, it isn't simply just a flaming fist hitting a body. You can see the fire blast flying out the other side of whoever it hits. When he punched Hold'em's cheek, you can see fire flying out of his mouth. He hits the front and the blast comes out the back, just like what he did to that tree. Now any reasonable person would wonder, what is it that allows Luffy to unconsciously raise his vibrations to a level past which he knows how to do consciously? I believe it is similar to how Sanji uses DJ post time skip. The death of Ace was extremely traumatic for Luffy. His memory of his dear late brother triggers something within him that creates a spark in his spirit. Now what I believe is occurring to actually create the flames of Red Hawk and Diablo Jamba is that Luffy and Sanji's Haki is vibrating at a frequency that will result in their aura turning into flames. Because ultimately, that's what really matters most when Sanji activates Diablo Jamba. Sure, maybe the first time he used the attack, it required he spin at a speed which he could catch on fire. But what really matters most is the effect, not the cause. What Sanji needs is to generate enough kinetic energy in his leg that it will cause whatever vibrating subatomic particles, atoms, or molecules that are in and around his leg to vibrate at a frequency to catch on fire. Besides the fact that solar plexus is associated with fire, it also makes sense that the highest chakra level that focuses on the physical body would be the one that causes flames. The higher the chakra, the higher the frequency. The higher the frequency, the faster the Haki will vibrate. Heat is synonymous with how fast atoms vibrate. As I already pointed out, Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro and Big Mom have all displayed fire abilities. And there are more. Kinemon, Katakuri, Hold'em, Hyogoro, King, and Kaido have all displayed some kind of fire aura or technique. If there are more you can think of, definitely let me know. One last thing to address in this video. Although there are levels of chakra, that doesn't make one chakra better than the other. First step you take up the stairs isn't more important or better than the last. It's not as if Luffy will learn advanced armament Haki and abandon hardening. All the steps towards enlightenment are essential and equal. That just about covers this topic. Tune in for the next video in which I go over observation and conquerors. Tell me in the comments what remaining chakras you think will be associated with which Haki. The fourth and final part is where I'll go into devil fruits. That's it for food for thought. I made it short and sweet, but if you'd like to hear me elaborate more, then stick around for the secret ending. Would like food for thought? Then check out the rest of my channel. Want to see some actually well thought out analysis and theories with a bunch of evidence to back them up? Well then check out my series Deep Dive. Thanks for watching. Boy, I had a ton of fun making this video. Just looking at all the One Piece powers and fighting styles and trying to relate that to the chakras, which I've been studying for a long time because I'm into spirituality myself. I love making these videos. One of the best moments in writing was putting together that advanced armament Haki is a lot like sacral energy, which is water element, and all of that is similar to Fishman karate. And it's not even the fact that Fishman karate might be advanced armament Haki. I can't really go as far as to make that claim. However, the similarities are so glaring. Wouldn't it make so much sense for a water-themed Haki ability to be similar to a water-themed martial arts ability? If Haki is all about vibrations and frequency, then that makes it even more similar to Fishman karate. Just look at Jinbei's attack on Big Mom. See all those ripples? I'll talk more on that later. Now let's bring it back to the basics and talk about root chakra. A fighting style similar to that is the 6 powers, aka Rokushiki. Now I can see two big reasons why people would say that the 6 powers can't be Haki, and I'll address both. First, if it was Haki, then wouldn't Lucci bypass Luffy's rubber? Well, if we're going by my chakra theory, not necessarily. Remember, I didn't begin talking about bypassing devil fruit powers until sacral. With root, all I talked about was the hardening and the control over one's body. The root chakra is the one most linked to the physical body, and Rokushiki focuses on maximizing the physical body. It has techniques both involving hardening and body manipulation. Remember how I used Gear 4th as an example? His techniques are basically Rokushiki. It only makes sense given that Gear 2nd is inspired by Rokushiki. He can fly like CP9 member, harden his body, and manipulate his body freely. In fact, Luffy's recoil attacks were done way before, by Kaku. The second reason I can see people saying it can't be Haki is that it isn't based off the strength of one spirit. Here's something to not misconstrue, especially if you want to get into spirituality yourself. The physical is a part of the spiritual. One does not forsake the other. The term I like to use is that they are two sides of the same coin. Spirit isn't just mystical abilities, but can be described as willpower. Don't think for a second it doesn't take willpower to train your body day in and day out to the point in which you can stab things with your finger like a pistol. Not only that, Rokushiki is almost like treating one's body as a weapon that they will then give their will to. For example, when Komudoru controls his hair, it's very similar to how Marigold does the same. Or when Luffy tells his arm to chase someone, as if his arm has a consciousness of its own. When you look at the development of Luffy's Haki, it isn't rigid. There doesn't seem to be one right way to train Haki, and it would seem that Luffy is just going through the motions. This is known as a spiritual journey. Rokushiki seems to be the opposite. It must be learned a specific way in order to master it, and once mastered, only then can Rokushiki users move on to the next level. When one has mastered the 6 powers that falls under root chakra, they then will be able to use sacral chakra in the form of Rokugan. However, I gotta put the brakes on this. I've really talked about this topic way longer than I expected. There's so much to go over that I'm actually going to make a separate video about the relationship between Rokushiki and Haki. Wow, I went on about that way longer than I expected. Glad I didn't ramble like this in the main video. But I hope you're enjoying this extra content, and if you are, let me know in the comments section. Anyway, let's talk about a couple fighting styles shown in Dressrosa that may have been displaying advanced armament Haki. The Colosseum brought together many strong fighters from across the New World. It only makes sense that some of them were capable of advanced armament Haki. First, let's look at Burgess, who used an unexplained power. Perhaps it was a devil fruit, but I wouldn't be at least bit surprised if it was Haki. Haki is all about vibrations, and Burgess's power is that of shockwaves, which makes it very similar to Ryo and Fishman karate. In Japanese, it is called Hado Elbow, which, if you're a fan of Street Fighter, you'd know that Hado is the name of an energy force. Like I said with Ki from Dragon Ball or Chakra from Naruto, it's all the same thing as Haki. Another fighting style that seems similar to advanced armament Haki is the one Sabo uses. A lot of people have suggested that he's already using advanced armament Haki back in Dressrosa, and I can totally see that. Sabo seems to be specializing in armament Haki, and he just recently got the Meta no Mi, which is fire, and I suggested that the top level Haki is fire, which is interesting because wouldn't that make it redundant when you think about it? But it could also just mix well together and the two powers can enhance each other. It could explain why Sabo was already so adept at using the Meta no Mi. Like immediately after he got the fruit, he was able to use the Fire Fist, no training required. Also relating back to Rokushiki is Dragon Claw. That technique looks very similar to Shigun. Something I've noticed about advanced armament Haki and Sabo's technique is that it not only bypasses exterior defense, but will destroy the armor or any material from the inside out, which causes the target to shatter or explode. Another fighting style that I realized does the same thing is the Hashoken. If you notice around Don Chijiao's fist as he punches, you can see an aura around it. We know that aura plays a huge role in using advanced armament Haki. Sai even claims that it can't be blocked and passes defenses, which we know that advanced armament Haki does the same thing. When the attack lands, there's a ripple effect, which is exactly what I'm trying to teach you in this video about Haki. It's all about frequencies, and frequencies are all about ripples. In the anime, Sai's foot even goes on fire when he uses his most powerful attack. But that didn't happen in the manga, so I didn't feel like including it in the main video. Speaking of ripples, if you're a fan of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, you know of the power known as Hamon. And like I said with the other powers across the animes, they are all pretty much the same but with different names. Hamon, if you don't already know, means ripples. All of this energy stuff is just frequencies. And what is interesting about Hamon is that it's directly said that different frequencies will produce different effects. That's pretty much the same thing I'm talking about, but with Haki. The frequency the protagonist used the most is the yellow sun. It looks like a golden fire, which is like the solar plexus, which is associated with the color yellow, and it is fire. Speaking of yellow fire, let's look at another anime, Dragon Ball. What does a Super Saiyan look like? Well, it's golden yellow fire-like aura. Even more apparent, Naruto. In his most powerful form, he looks like he's covered in yellow fire. Remember Hold'em? He's not really all that significant or strong. How is it that someone like him could be capable of 3rd level of arm and Haki? Well, let me give him a little bit more credit. I mean, he's still a high-ranking member in a Yonko crew. Also, he's probably been living in Wano for a long time, and that would certainly be the best environment to learn that technique. However, what if he didn't even consciously learn it, but rather was the byproduct of his smile fruit? Thematically, it makes sense. First of all, recall when I said Naruto resembles the yellow fire of the sun. Well, when he initially would activate the form, he would touch his navel area, similar to where Hold'em's lion is. Solar plexus chakra is also known as navel chakra. Not only the location, but the animal is relevant too. A lion can be associated with the solar plexus for 2 reasons. First of all, the king of the jungle represents pride, the same as solar plexus. And lions are linked to fire. This is because a lion's mane resembles a sun. See how it all went full circle? With that, so as you can see, the theme is apparent in many different stories. They all derive from the same inspiration, the same source, a story known as real life. Now this brings me to what Luffy's gonna be like in the future if he learns to master this fire, the 3rd level of armament Haki. So you know how Luffy enters Gear 4th and there's a stream of smoke or mist around him, and it looks like a scarf. Now imagine that stream of mist, but it's on fire. Wouldn't that be cool? Basically being a fire aura around him. I think that would be awesome, and I would love to take the credit for coming up with this idea. But this was suggested to me by this creator named Ichiro Oda, the literal author of One Piece. He actually showed this in one of his cover pages. I believe it's for chapter 821. So yeah, possible foreshadow? If it ends up happening, you come back to me, telling me I called it. I love that stuff. One last thing. While I was writing this and brainstorming what chakra elements meant for the abilities of human beings that could be portrayed as supernatural, I made the comparison of advanced armament Haki to urinating, which led me to think of another bodily waste and how that could also be associated with an element. I'm gonna read something I texted to my girlfriend while I was writing this video. Poo-poo is made from root chakra magic, and pee-pee is made from sacral magic. So it's just a juvenile joke, but when you think about it, it makes sense. I mean, poop is basically like mud, dirt, earth. Every time you go to the bathroom, you're either earthbending or waterbending, or both. Alright, going on and on about pee-pee and poo-poo is probably a good sign that this video should end.